Intense Game, who have just lost a player. I believe they've gone down to Ora, if I'm not mistaken, over by Yasnaya on a vehicle hot drop there. Our only casualty so far. Ooh. Maybe a little bit more as well, and Power drop one out. He tries to give him the runaround. He says, oh, I'm going to dodge this vehicle. They can't get through the rock. And he's like, yeah, but I've got a gun, mate.
He's got a gun, and well, the gun wins over the night. Power, one of the top slaying teams when it comes to Arigel, at least historically here for our survival stage, elimination-wise, averaging, 7 or a little over 7. They start off with to get some real estate as much as you can on mainland. Power, one of the top slaying teams when it comes to Arigel, at least historically here for our survival stage, elimination-wise, averaging 7 or a little over 7. They start off with. And I love that Falcons Kinotrope are taking early priority. Let's not forget Kinotrope, a team that is looking to work their way up in the top 8, fully eliminated early on in the initial fight against Yangon Galactic. Early on. Good for them. Everybody try and rotate over. There's so much water. Rotate as much as you can on mainland. On Sandhawk map 1, so they are desperately needing a solid game 2 and onwards. But for Falcons, if they can get center zone, maybe even get on that shoreline, they could have a wonderful game here.
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, it is a pretty dramatic circle in terms of landmass, but what it doesn't do is necessarily put a massive hurry up, because it's on the mainland. These rotational paths will be known, and generally teams will be comfortable getting into this area of the map, right? It's not too different from if it was just a little bit further north and it didn't have as much water on the south edge. The difficulty will start to come on through in towards stage 2, stage 3, after these first rotational plays have been made and moving on through that way. With 2 players going down so far on a hard East Plane path, not necessarily unexpected, but the thing I'm looking at right now is Otter and Influence Rage and Yasnaya Pollyanna.
Yeah, they're very, very close to each other. That fight most likely going down. Again, an important one to say the least. For Ora, well, they are towards the top end of the standings. They naturally want to continue to separate themselves, not only for the money, but also for a guaranteed spot in the finals on our next stage. But for Influence Rage's perspective, I mean, truly at the moment, the crown jewel for Brazil, the crown jewel for the Americas region to break at the top 8 and represent Americas in the finals. If it's not for Influence Rage, it's not going to be an intense game. They're a little bit too far down. Alpha 7, so many question marks on them. So Influence Rage winning a fight against Ora here could be massive and bumping them up the standings.
The question is, do either team want to engage?
Not at all.
Right? It looks like they dropped close and looted away from one another. And in general, I would imagine that that is what is on their minds right now. Meanwhile, over on the rest of the map, it's Regnum Kaya crossing the Ganka Fields. Falcons, they've sent a scout out ahead, but Regnum Kaya could potentially pinch that away and cut off that supply line behind them. It looks like Falcons are on a 2-2 right now, I think. It could be a 3-1, I'm not entirely sure on our map feed, but either way, Regnum Kaya seem to be descending on that forward position for the Falcons, and that could be nasty, depending on how fast the Falcons can regroup. Yep. They are about 500 meters out for getting fully on the regroup, but Ralph goes down, and Regnum Kaya wastes no time.
That's right, Regnum Kaya is starting to get active. I believe it was a 2-2 split. It was Koa with Redux who were on the advanced position, and well, now he's got Narvalo and Co starting to move through, and Wild is most likely going to be shot at relatively soon, you would have to think. For Falcons' perspective, losing one hurts, though. They were not wanting that, but that's kind of reminiscent of what they've been doing. Falcons love sending a scout player up ahead. Sometimes it burns them, sometimes it works out well.
How have AXTMG made their way along this coastline? They've rotated through now 3 teams, and it seems like people are just like, yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. You guys can just keep going. It's all chill. They dropped around Milta, sort of around that sort of area. They've gone through Nongshim, they've gone through Kinotrope, now they've gone past Vision, and it seems like nobody wants a piece other than on that hot drop that we saw earlier where they lost Devotee.
That's right. Falcons start to move their way maybe towards the shoreline themselves, maybe Closer and closer to Kinotrope. There's a lot of activity in one area. I mean, you got Intense Gamers relatively close, but all eyes on Vision. Now some Red Force moving in, Kinotrope, all within the same vicinity, and it is getting quite active. Redox moves up, and there's going to be a team off to his right that he's going to have to potentially deal with a little bit later on. For Alpha 7, I said it, they like to land Georgia Pool. They go towards Lipovka. Now they've got to make the long rotate down, and they're choosing to take the northern side, which is also quite congested with the arena, R8, Influence Rage, Aura, who are all moving in. And Aura, luckily for them, are the tip of the spear. They're going to be the first team to get inside of the zone, which gives them the flexibility not only for locations, but also potentially gatekeep if they so desire.
This is a really ridiculous number of teams actually going for this north side rotate, right? I mean, you know the plane path was deep on that eastern side, sure, but the fact that there's so few teams coming through from Mansion, past School, past Pochinki, is going to change things up. I wonder if anyone's going to draw short and try and camp one of those bridges on the way, farm a couple of points. If I'm R8, I'm thinking about it. Looks like maybe they're going to hop out and slow Alpha 7 down. Rebel just about gets away with it for now. Will they unleash more, or are they going to have to try and turnbull and do the fights? He slows down. This could be really dangerous here.
No.
Takes one. The vehicle's smoking. He's low out in the open field here. This is really dangerous for the Rebel. He needs to be really careful. We're zoomed in over his shoulder. You can see he's keeping it cool. He's keeping it calm. But you can imagine that heart is pumping right now.
You know, a lot of times we joke about flipping the cars, bad drivers, so forth, but like, no, that could have been quite devastating. And now into the buggy we go, full health on the vehicle, and they'll continue to separate themselves from R8 and co. Look, R8, they're not playing around today. They're going to take down Alpha 7 as soon as they can. And let's not forget, for Alpha 7, the pressure is truly on their shoulders, not only in the arena, but also for their region. For them going back to back, they cannot continue to fumble the bag and make mistakes.
That crown embellished key is teetering on the edge of the crusher right now. For Alpha 7, they are desperate to get points at this juncture. 8th place is a real distance for them right now. They sit on 27. 8th place with Yangon Galacticos right now is 43. We're expecting it to be pushing up towards 70 at the end of the day. And we'll see how they are able to try and clamber their way on through, but that hope is dwindling fast. A hard west shift here isn't super dramatic. Again, it does cut out those Pochinki fields, but I feel like a lot of teams are going to be more pleased about that than if it had been further east on this circle. That west side coast now is going to start to get a little bit more packed. The area around Quarry can be very treacherous as well.
Yeah, Alpha 7 starting to move straight into the center. Well, relatively close anyways, just opposite of Aura and IG as well. And speaking of Aura, just going to be right there neck and neck, and Alpha 7 don't want to pop. Well, they do. I thought they weren't going to pop out and fire some shots, but they want distance. They want Aura to keep on moving. And for Alpha 7, yeah, the shoreline would be great, but I think they're going to be happy with the real estate they currently have, and especially now, hardcover POI setting up. They will set up their fortress and try and gatekeep anybody else who starts to move in, aka E-Arena, who have now made their way into the zone out of blue. You still got some stragglers, Yangon Galacticus, Power, Gamex, who have been very slow on the rotate, now finally starting to come in. Regnum Karya setting up in the Wizard Tower. You got some great spots locked in. Question is, when the next future zones come, who's going to be benefited? And Alpha 7, no, Mafioso's down the arena challenging.
They've just immediately taken down Mafioso, got way too bold on the angle. As a solo, just had no chance of having backup from the rest of his roster. On the far side of the hill, I mean, I'm slamming a massive question mark on that one.
Yeah, that's tough. What is going on? Alpha 7, they had such a good spot. Hardcover POI, like they looked great. Why not just stay there? Why scout? It's not necessary, and now you lose a player. You got to go at it with just 3. That hurts me. It really does. Vinny laying low. Scarface up ahead. Vinny, a talented player in his own right. A guy that wants to truly cement his name in PUBG Mobile history. I had a chance to speak with him, and I love his tenacity. I love his desire to want to be one of of the best out there. Noxium Red Force potentially gatekeeping power and Gamex as they start to move in.
লাইভ স্ট্রিমটা আমি করছি ওটা
Fireflux
লাইভ স্ট্রিমটা আমার
are now
চলছে
on the 73. Our first team to have crossed that expected threshold, right? They are now over the 70 points that we're expecting them to need to be able to get on towards those
আমি যখন
finals
কিছু বলিও
directly at
সেটাও
the end of
শুনতে
the
পারি
day. So from here on out, it is just a question of solidification. If you could jump up over 80 points, you're looking pretty much guaranteed to be in, right? So if they can earn 7 points this match, beautiful stuff. Turkey will be very, very happy. Even if Regnum Karya don't make it, they will still have their representatives in those finals.
Well, historically, Fireflux have averaged at least 4 eliminations when it comes to Erangel, so that'll put them even closer to that 80-point mark, which definitely would be safe. With the other team struggling as much as they have been, even towards like Gangon Galacticus at 43, I still feel 73 is most likely going to be safe, but you'd rather be safe than sorry. Take a look at the map once again. Another zone shift towards the south. That's going to force Alpha 7 out of their hard cover. E-Arena hot on their heels, most likely trying to hunt down the remaining A7 members. All-Rate also going in. Influence, Rage, Regnum Karya. My goodness, the team's up there, John. Incredible.
I'm looking around that quarry area as
চাপ
well.
আছে টিম
They
ইন্ডিয়ার
control a lot of the ground on the southwest side. If they can keep that outpost alive, it could be great. But
ফাইনালে যাওয়ার জন্য হ্যাশট্যাগ 8 অন্তত মিনিমাম তোকে হ্যাশট্যাগ 8 যেতে হবে আর এখন হ্যাশট্যাগ 15 এ পড়ে আছে 16খানা টিমের মধ্যে 15 নম্বরে পড়ে আছে
They can make it over towards Revo, who's taking some peeks. Carrillo repositioning on the buggy. And Squash as well, potentially in with a scrap. R8 moving in on the north side.
কোয়ালিফাই করতে পারবে না
Are going to go parallel.